stop what you are doing. Seriously, drop everything. We usually look at the NBA trade deadline and say, okay, give these guys 2 months to figure out the system. Give them a training camp. But the 2026 debuts we just witnessed, they are rewriting the entire script on how basketball teams are built.
They really are. It's unprecedented.
Completely unprecedented. I'm talking about a landscape-shifting event in the Eastern Conference that nobody saw coming. We have a superstar joining the Cleveland Cavaliers in a move that, well, it changes the math of the entire league. And contrary to every hot take out there, the chemistry is already terrifying.
Terrifying is the exact word I'd use.
Right. So you are going to want to stick around to hear the shocking conclusion of this deep dive, because I might just predict the finals matchup. But hey, before we break down that game tape, do me a massive favor. Smash that like button right now.
It really helps the channel out.
It does.
Yeah.
It helps us get these deep dives to more people. And I want to know your take in the comments right now. Which of these debuts do you think is actually sustainable, and which one is just, a honeymoon phase? Drop a comment, and if you haven't already, subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown.
Because there's going to be a lot to unpack this season.
Oh, tons. Okay, let's get into the mission today. We are analyzing a massive stack of game tapes, scouting reports, and advanced stats for the 2026 NBA season. We're looking strictly at players debuting for new teams, and looking at this footage, it feels like the rulebook on team chemistry just got thrown into a shredder.
It definitely feels that way. And what's fascinating here is that we aren't just sitting around watching highlight reels or, skimming box scores. We are conducting a real-time study in rapid adaptation.
Rapid adaptation.
Exactly. Think about it. Usually it takes weeks for a player to learn a defensive rotation, or just to learn where a specific teammate likes to receive the ball on the wing. But the source material we are diving into today covers this chaotic mix of debuts.
From all over the map.
We're all over. From Atlanta to Salt Lake City and eventually that massive situation in Cleveland, we're seeing established stars fitting into complex systems almost instantly. It challenges the fundamental idea that you absolutely need a training camp to win basketball games.
That is the part I just cannot wrap my head around. It's like they skipped orientation entirely and went straight to running the boardroom. Let's start with what the sources are calling the redemption arcs.
Oh, I love this section.
Right. Specifically, down in Atlanta, Jonathan Kuminga is now an Atlanta Hawk. Now, looking at the tape, the energy in State Farm Arena, it seemed, completely different from last month.
It's a classic fresh start phenomenon, but the thing is, it's backed up by actual on-court performance. You have to look at the context here.
Right, his previous situation.
Yeah, he's coming from a system where his role fluctuated constantly. One night he's playing 30 minutes, the next he's barely off the bench. So he's arriving in Atlanta with this massive, unignorable chip on his shoulder.
Oh, absolutely. You can see it in his body language from the tip-off.
Yeah.
The tape shows him getting this huge, roaring round of applause from the Atlanta crowd during introductions.
Yeah.
And he immediately fed off that energy.
He absorbed it.
He did. And there was this one sequence that stood out to me so much because it wasn't a play drawn up in a timeout. It was pure, raw instinct. You have Dyson Daniels, who, by the way, has been incredible defensively.
Just an absolute menace on the perimeter.
Exactly. So Daniels picks off a steal, wraps it around a retreating defender, and just throws up this lob.
Yeah.
And Kuminga, he goes up and throws it down with this ferocity that just screamed, I'm here.
That play is so significant because it shows he is playing freely, he's not overthinking, but I really want to focus on something the reports highlighted, which is his aggression on the drive.
The half-court offense stuff.
Right. Kuminga actually mentioned in the post-game notes that he learned a lot just by watching from the bench in his previous situation. Yeah, and now he's applying that observation. He had a runner in the lane that missed, but watch what happens next on the tape. He doesn't hang his head, he doesn't jog back on defense, he follows it up immediately for the putback.
Just bullying his way to the rim.
Exactly. That second effort mentality, that motor, is something the Hawks have been desperate for in their front court.
And the shooting. Look, this is where the data gets a little weird, and I need you to explain this to me. Kuminga hit 3 three-pointers in this debut.
He did.
The sources pointed out this strange trend. When big men or forwards come to the Hawks recently, they suddenly just catch fire. We saw it with Jock Landale, we saw it with Christian Koloko, and now Kuminga is splashing threes from the corner like he's a splash brother. Is there something in the water in Atlanta?
It's likely less about the water and much more about the spacing and the green light from the coaching staff.
The green light makes a difference.
A huge difference. In his previous spot, if he hesitated on a shot or missed a rotation, he might get pulled from the game. In Atlanta, Quinn Snyder's system is specifically designed to generate those open corner looks. And the staff is actively telling him to let it fly.
So it's a confidence thing.
Purely. When you remove the fear of making a mistake, a player's mechanics often smooth out naturally. It is a statistical anomaly to see that immediate jump in efficiency, sure, but it speaks to how comfortable he feels in that locker room. He's not thinking, he's just reacting.
Not thinking, just reacting. That really seems to be the overarching theme of these debuts. Now, shifting gears to a different kind of emotion, we have to talk about Kobe White.
Oh man, this was a wild one.
It really was. So he makes his debut for the Charlotte Hornets, but the schedule makers must have a sick sense of humor, because his very first game is against his former team, the Chicago Bulls.
In Chicago?
In Chicago.
Yeah.
In the United Center, the building he literally used to call home.
That is always a massive psychological hurdle for any player. It's one thing to debut for a new franchise. It's an entirely different beast to do it while hearing your old introduction music playing for the guys you used to sit next to on the plane.
Right. You walk into the arena where you spent years, but suddenly you have to turn left instead of right to get to the visitor's locker room. The visual of him playing on that floor in a teal Hornets jersey is jarring for the fans, and probably for him too.
Totally jarring.
I was really expecting a slow start, maybe some nerves, maybe a couple of forced shots early on, but did it slow him down? Not even a little bit. The guy's jump shot looked absolutely pure.
He was locked in.
He was. There was this specific turnaround jumper he hit over a defender, I think it was off a baseline out of bounds play, and it was just silky smooth. It looked like he was shooting around in an empty gym. And then we have to talk about the fit with LaMelo Ball.
That pairing is really intriguing from a tactical standpoint because you have LaMelo, who is this chaotic, brilliant playmaker. He improvises everything.
He plays like he's at Rucker Park.
Exactly. And then you add Kobe White, who provides that steady, high-volume scoring punch. The sources actually mention a funny moment where LaMelo had to bail him out on a play where Kobe forgot he had a wrap on his leg. Just those little chemistry hiccups you expect.
Just a funny little miscommunication.
Right. But when the ball was actually in play, White gave the Hornets a pure shooter that they desperately needed to space the floor.
That's a great point. Because LaMelo can be so wild, having a guy who just goes out and gets buckets really stabilizes the offense. The report mentioned they capitalized heavily on second chances, and White just looked incredibly comfortable finding his spots on the floor.
He balances the chaos. He acts as a release valve for the offense when plays break down.
Okay, let's move from the backcourt to the front court. We need to discuss what the sources are calling the missing pieces. We're heading out to the Bay Area. The Golden State Warriors added Kristaps Porzingis.
A massive addition,
Yeah.
literally and figuratively.
Yes. Now, context is everything here. Porzingis had not played a single minute of basketball since January 7th due to hamstring and hip injuries. This was an incredibly high-stakes return for a team that is always trying to maximize the back end of their championship window.
It was incredibly high stakes. The Warriors have been searching for this specific archetype for years. They need a big man who can protect the rim defensively but doesn't clog the paint offensively.
Right, because usually you have to choose one or the other. You get a rim protector who can't shoot, or a floor spacer who gets bullied in the paint.
Exactly. And he delivered on both ends immediately.
He really did. The tape shows him literally directing traffic out there on his first night. There was this sequence where he's at the top of the key, physically pointing guys into position, and then boom, he pops out to the wing.
The basketball IQ is off the charts.
It is. There was this one moment where he shoots over McCall Bridges. Now, Bridges is a fantastic long defender, but he's giving up half a foot to Porzingis. So Porzingis just rises up and hits this deep three. It looked completely effortless.
That play highlights the cheat code aspect of Porzingis in this specific Warrior system. Think about the geometry of the court for a second.
Okay, lay it out for us.
In the Warrior system, which relies so much on spacing and constant off-ball movement, having a 7-footer who comfortably stands 30 feet from the basket is an absolute nightmare for a defense.
Okay, because it pulls the rim protector out.
Precisely. It pulls the opposing center out of the paint. If the center stays home to protect the rim, Porzingis just hits the trailing three. If the center comes all the way out to contest him, the lane is wide open for those classic Warriors backdoor cutters.
It's lose-lose for the defense.
It really is. He actually scored his first field goal in transition, which is terrifying. If he's running the floor and hitting threes on the break, the Warriors' offense becomes nearly ungovernable.
Ungovernable. That is a very scary word for the rest of the Western Conference. Speaking of offenses finding their rhythm, let's go to Dallas, Chris Middleton.
The quiet assassin.
Seriously. The Mavericks picked him up, and I feel like people kind of forgot how good this guy actually is because of his recent injury history. He dropped 19 points in his debut.
And it wasn't just empty calories or garbage time points either. The Mavericks were actively funneling the offense through him immediately.
Which is wild for a debut.
It's extremely rare. Usually you stick a new guy in the corner and tell him to wait for the ball to swing his way. But Jason Kidd and Dallas said, no, go to work. We trust you.
That's what jumped out to me on the tape. There was a play where he powers through the paint, misses this tough little scoop shot, but stays with it, rebounds his own miss through traffic, and puts it back up and in.
The veteran savvy.
Right. And then, literally on the next possession, he's out on the perimeter and sticks 3-ball right in the defender's face. It was that classic Middleton smooth game. He never, ever looks like he's rushing.
It's the immense value of a veteran scorer who has won a championship. The Mavericks rely so heavily on their primary ball handlers, like Luka, to create everything. They desperately need someone who can create their own shot when the initial play breaks down.
A bailout guy.
Exactly. Middleton provides that bailout option. He's a calm presence under pressure. The sources note he got a crucial shot off over the fingertips of Jay Huff, just high-level contested shot making that you really can't teach. He changes the ceiling of that offense because he creates a legitimate third focal point.
Okay, moving over to Los Angeles. The Lakers debuted a new look by bringing in Jared Vanderbilt and Luke Kennard. These are two players who couldn't be more different if they tried, right?
They're absolute polar opposites, and that's exactly why it works so well for Los Angeles. You have Vanderbilt, who is the textbook definition of an energy big. He's not out there to score 30 points a night.
Definitely not. But hey, the first shot he took as a Laker actually went down.
True. But you're right, it's not about the shooting with him. The deep dive sources really emphasized his length and his relentless offensive rebounding.
He's just a menace on the glass.
He is. He's touching the glass so high up, keeping possessions alive with tip-outs. He fits that gritty, blue-collar role perfectly for a team that has a lot of stars who need the ball.
Right. He provides the dirty work that allows those stars to rest on defense. And then you contrast that absolute grind with Luke Kennard. The analysis on him is pretty simple. Elite, smooth, long-range shooting.
Smooth is the perfect word for his stroke.
It really is. He hit a 3 from way downtown, and the source description was almost poetic. It said the ball, quote-unquote, left his throat and just splashed through the net. The Lakers have been desperate for reliable spacing for what feels like a decade now, and Kennard is statistically one of the best snipers in the entire league.
It addresses their specific tactical needs flawlessly. Vanderbilt shores up the perimeter defense and rebounding, while Kennard opens up the floor so the stars have driving lanes. It's a classic case of a front office identifying specific holes and plugging them with elite specialists rather than just chasing another star. It's really smart team building.
Speaking of smart, let's get to the fun part of the sources, the energy shifters. Because if you thought the veterans doing their jobs was cool, wait until you hear about Jose Alvarado in Philadelphia.
Grand Theft Alvarado.
Yes. This was easily my favorite part of the game tape because it was just pure, unadulterated chaos on the court.
The energy he brings is undeniable, but I have to say, this was an outlier performance, even for a guy like him.
Undeniable. Man, it was explosive. The guy didn't just come in and get a sneaky backcourt skill, though he did do that too, obviously, because that's his signature move. But he hit 8 3-pointers.
Insane.
8! For a guy who is known primarily as a defensive pest, that is just insane production.
That is a career high-level performance, and to do it in a debut is staggering. And for a player known for his defense, his kleptomania, as the sources so brilliantly call it, to provide that level of offensive output, it completely shatters the opponent's game plan.
Because they aren't game planning for him to shoot.
Exactly. They aren't scouting Jose Alvarado to drop 24 points from deep. They're daring him to shoot, and he made them pay.
Big time. The sources called it a canine attitude. He's out there poking the ball away from behind, diving on the floor for loose balls, and the crowd in Philly. They treated him like blood family instantly.
Philly loves a blue-collar guy.
They really do. There's a quote from the coverage saying his energy is contagious, he's firing up the fans, he's hyping up his teammates on the bench. At one point in the tape, he's 5 for 8 from deep, and he hits his 6th, then his 7th. He just kept letting them fly.
It changes the entire dynamic of the team. When your backup point guard can swing a game with scoring like that, it takes so much pressure off the primary stars. It was definitely a heat check kind of night. But it also shows he's not just a defensive gimmick. He can really play on the other end.
Yeah, he proved he's a two-way threat. And speaking of guys heating up, we have Anfernee Simons making his debut for the Chicago Bulls. This was a homecoming of sorts.
Yeah.
He's got that Chicago native vibe going for him.
A tough, elite, shot-making guard returning to his roots. It's a great story.
It is. And he had this one play on the tape, a 4-point play opportunity. He gets the ball, and he's immediately trapped by two big men near the sideline. Logically, he should pass. The basketball textbook says, pass the ball out of the double team.
Get it to the open man.
Right. Instead, he turns, fades away off one leg, and knocks down a deep three while getting fouled. The source material literally says there is no way in the world he should have got that shot off.
Yeah.
But he did.
That is pure talent over tactics. When a defense executes a trap perfectly, forcing the exact situation they want, and the offensive player still scores, it's completely demoralizing for the other team.
It breaks their spirit.
It really does.
Yeah.
Simons brings that unpredictability to the Bulls. They desperately need someone who can make something out of absolutely nothing when the shot clock is winding down.
And really quickly, we have to mention the Ricky element here. Jared McCain going to the Oklahoma City Thunder.
This is such a fascinating fit for the OKC timeline. They acquire him in a trade from Philly, and he just slots right in perfectly with their young, dynamic core.
He looked like he'd been playing in their system all season long. He's hitting these confident pull-up jumpers immediately. He's hitting catch-and-shoot threes. There was a moment where he used a little stutter step and hesitation dribble to freeze the defense and get right to the rim.
The poise is impressive.
He's a youngster, yeah, but he's playing with veteran confidence. The Thunder just keep adding these highly skilled, high IQ basketball players.
It's incredibly consistent with their front office philosophy. They run a system where they drive and kick constantly. McCain stretches the defense because you simply cannot leave him open on the perimeter. The sources actually noted he has a surprising physical advantage even against tough physical guards like Marcus Smart.
Holds his own.
He does. That shooting stroke, combined with his strength, is so valuable for a team that wants to play a 5-out offensive style.
All right, this is it. This is what we teased at the very top of the show. The headline act. The absolute landscape shifter. James Harden is a Cleveland Cavalier.
Seeing him in the wine and gold uniform is definitely a visual adjustment for any NBA fan.
And totally surreal. But listen to the vibe from the reports. Harden comes into the facility, and the narrative around him for years has always been that he's difficult, right? That he wants things his way.
Yeah.
But here, instead of demanding the ball every single second, he's standing at the podium talking about being a leader, saying he's just there to help and do whatever it takes to win.
That's exactly the right attitude to project when joining an established playoff team. But let's be honest with ourselves. Once the actual game started, the helper mode turned into dominance mode pretty quickly.
Oh, instantly. Like,
Yeah.
Zero hesitation. He gets isolated on a rookie, sizes him up, boom, lethal crossover, step back three, nothing but net. Game tied at 117. You just cannot stay in front of this man when he gets to his spots. The sources say his crossover is still absolutely lethal, maybe still the best in the game.
It is. The deceleration is still elite. But the biggest question mark, and frankly the reason so many analysts hated this trade when it was announced, was always going to be the fit alongside Donovan Mitchell.
The ultimate question.
Right, you have two extremely ball-dominant guards who are used to initiating the offense. The traditional theory says there's only one basketball, so they should clash. They should step on each other's toes.
Well, can they coexist? Are you kidding me? They created Showtime in downtown Cleveland.
It really did.
There was this specific play on the tape, and I need you to visualize this because it genuinely defies physics. Harden gets the ball in the run in transition. He sees Mitchell streaking down the opposite lane. He throws an alley-oop from near half court that felt like it was 10 feet in the air. The source literally says he dropped Donovan Mitchell out of the rafters to catch it and slam it home.
That specific play right there answers the coexistence question. The pure talent overlap is just overwhelming for a defense.
Overwhelming.
Here is why it works tactically. When you have two guys on the floor who can create offense off the dribble at that elite level, the defense is forced into a constant state of panic.
They can't relax for a second.
Never. If they collapse heavily on Harden's drives, Mitchell is flying through the air on the weak side with a runway. If they stay glued to Mitchell, Harden has the one-on-one isolation and hits the step-back three. It forces the defense to pick their poison, and honestly, there is no right answer.
The chemistry just looked instant. You had Harden hitting the clutch game-tying three, and then immediately on the next possession, setting up his teammates. It wasn't that stagnant, my turn, your turn style of basketball we sometimes see with star pairings.
Right, it wasn't isolated.
It was pure flow. The source material called it a shocking takeaway, specifically because everyone expected friction. Everyone expected an awkward adjustment period where they figured out the pecking order. But what we got was just pure dominance. The Cavs bit the Knicks, and frankly, with Harden and Mitchell clicking like that on day one, the East is in serious trouble.
It forces every opponent in the conference to rethink their entire defensive scheme. And when you add Harden's playmaking, and remember, he's quietly one of the best passers in league history, to Mitchell's dynamic scoring ability, it elevates the ceiling of that entire franchise significantly. They aren't just a good playoff team anymore. They are now a legitimate super team threat.
So what does this all mean for the league? We've seen Kuminga catch fire in Atlanta, Alvarado turn into a sharpshooter in Philly, and Harden create instant magic in Cleveland.
If we connect all these individual debuts to the bigger picture, it raises a really important philosophical question about how we view team building in 2026.
I like where this is going.
For years, the prevailing philosophy in the NBA has been about building slowly. You draft well, you establish a culture over multiple seasons, you suffer through growing pains together. But these debuts, they suggest something fundamentally different.
Go on, break it down.
It suggests that talent, raw, high-level, undeniable talent like Harden, Mitchell, or even Kuminga, creates its own chemistry much faster than we historically expect. It makes you wonder, is the era of building slowly over?
That is a massive question.
Can a front office just acquire high IQ talent, throw them on the court together, and trust them to figure it out in 48 minutes? Because looking at Cleveland, or even Philly with Alvarado stepping up, the answer seems to be yes. In today's NBA, pure talent might just trump tenure.
That is a wild thought to chew on. Can you literally just buy chemistry if the basketball IQ is high enough? The 2026 season seems to be screaming yes at the top of its lungs.
It's going to be a fascinating trend to monitor as the playoffs get closer.
All right, well, that is a wrap for this deep dive. We covered a ton of ground today, from the Hawks' brand new sharpshooter to the Cavs' terrifying new super duo.
A lot of tape to get through.
For sure. Hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown, do me a huge favor, smash that subscribe button. We are digging through the sources and the tape every single week to bring you these insights. And let us know in the comments, which of these debuts do you think will have the biggest impact when the playoffs roll around? I'm personally betting on that Cleveland connection, but I really want to hear your take.
It's hard to bet against them right now.
It really is. Until the next stack of game tapes arrives, keep watching the games.
Stay curious.